Thank you for doing this.
Good morning, thank you. Appreciate that. So I think the Air Force does a really good job with resiliency. Obviously, everybody in this room can probably describe resiliency, and we all had our classes with resiliency, but I think that's just a certain piece of the puzzle. I believe another piece of the puzzle with trying to solve this is, how do you fix a broken spirit? Right? What is a broken spirit? Right? That's depression, despair, isolation. That's fallen into that suicidal thinking, problematic thinking. So broken spirit. 81 people. 81 people who had that broken spirit, who had that despair, who had that depression, and took their own lives. It's a very hard decision to make. And I'll tell you a little story about myself. So, as I was transitioning out of the Air Force, as that rock star TACP that you described, I started getting very depressed. I started falling into that isolation as well. But what I did was I started fueling up with drugs and alcohol for about 3 good years, 3 years, well, bad years actually, and making victims of all my family and my friends, my ex-wife now, who's my best friend now, thank God, my son, and I was creating problems so that I had something to fix. And it was just a terrible time for me. And I recall one day in particular where it's probably the millionth time that I flaked on my son, and just, like I said, once again, fueled up on alcohol and drugs. And my ex had come over to my house to tell me, enough, no more. You're not going to see your son anymore. We're done. Well, I was passed out. She comes in, and I woke up to screaming and yelling and all this kind of stuff, and I just wasn't having it that day. And this is where my those dark, problematic thinking and depression, I was both suicidal and homicidal at the same time. So I recall waking up, and I just had enough, and I took the 45 Kimber from underneath my pillow, because that's what you do, right? You sleep with a 45 under your pillow, by the way. And I remember just taking it, weapon out, and I had walked over, I grabbed my ex and drug her to my into my walk-in closet, and screaming, yelling. I had no idea my son was there at the time. He was in the hallway, seeing this, and I held her down in my closet and shot, boom, 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 all around her. I wanted to give her a traumatic experience. I wanted to make her feel what I was feeling. And then until it emptied. And then I walked back in the room, and I looked down the hall, and I saw my son standing there, shaking. I believe he was crying as well. And I went and sat down in the chair, and my ex-wife got up, just dusted herself off, and said, "Alex, come on, we're going to go home." Went home. And about 10 minutes later, I had Tracy Police was there, the SWAT team was there, everybody came, surrounded my house. And, Medina, come out. No, I'm not coming out. And then I just kept remember seeing my son, and thinking about how far I dropped, how far I'd fallen, and just hearing him crying, and look what I've done. I don't do stuff like that. I'm the knight in shining armor. I go and I save people. I help people, and look how far I'd fallen. So I just surrendered. I'm done. I'm done. I walked out there, and they hooked me up. And what they did though is they took me to the VA. Luckily, thank God, I spent 7 months inpatient through the rehab, the PTSD trauma. A bunch of different programs. And I started feeling better. It worked. Started working. I started feeling like myself again. Now, granted, my son and my wife still didn't talk to me with good measure. And after the 7 months I had gotten out, came home, felt great, felt like, oh man, the world, I'm ready to tackle the world again, you know. Done drinking, I just felt really good about myself. And I started hearing about the 20 a day, the suicide number of veterans, and I was thinking to myself, why are so many people killing themselves? You know, but that was me. I was having the same problematic thinking thoughts, 7 months ago. So I felt, since I got myself fixed, that I had a duty and an obligation to help others in that position, in that situation. And that's why we went ahead and launched our organization, and it's working. It's the human connection. It's the peers. I call them peer support counselors. We take on we provide mental health and case management for the veteran treatment courts all throughout California now. But and serving others is where I feel like my spirit was lifted again. And everyone in this room knows what it's like to be a person who serves others. And when you're getting out, service doesn't end when you hang your uniform up. So I suggest that if anybody is getting out, that find yourself a job where you do serve others. Otherwise, you'll be lost. So it's really interesting. I get to see people's spirits lift. Mine is obviously lifted. Just seeing it all happen, watching people change, seeing that. I get it. Like I am still worth something. So my challenge to you would be, if you are feeling depressed, or that loss of hope, if you feel like your spirit is broken, there's a way out, and it's human connection. It's your friends, it's your family, it's the general here, it's the chief. That human connection. It's not Facebook, it's not likes or comments or any of that crazy crap. It's actually seeing somebody, and when you reach out, go and see them. Don't just call them, don't text them. See them, put your hand on them, give them a hug. It's human connection. That's how spirits get lifted. And all of you have the power to lift your own spirits. Another thing I want to share is I had a guy call me, Bobby. He's a 9-year Army veteran, and he attempted suicide. He called me and wanted to volunteer. He goes, hey, I want to give back. I attempted suicide. Can I come meet you? Yeah, sure, come on down. Well, I wasn't prepared for this. This guy came in, just walking stick, and I'm like, oh, okay, come sit down. And we started BSing in the office a little bit, and he had prosthetic eyes. And he just talked about, I attempted suicide. And I said, okay, well, what happened, And he's like, well, I was depressed, alcohol, lonely. So I just woke up one morning and put a gun to my head and shot. He blew both of his eyes blown out of his head, passed out. And I'm sitting there listening to this guy like, oh my, what? What? That's crazy. And he was committed, obviously. Well, he continued the story. He woke up and realized, oh, I'm still alive. I'm not dead. Crawls into his kitchen. He told me, I'm just like at the edge of my seat going, what? You know what I mean? So he said he got the keys to his car, crawls, kind of makes his way down to the garage, gets in there, turns it on, and sits there breathing fumes. And this is how bad this guy wanted to die. He's breathing the fumes and passes out. This story blows my mind. And the car runs out of gas. Right? So the car runs out of gas, and he's like, wakes up. He's like, holy shit, I'm still alive. I probably need some help. Yeah, you probably need some help. So then he crawls back in the house, look around, oh, here's my phone, 911. And he's like, I just attempted suicide, I need help. This is in Georgia. This is in Georgia about 9 years ago this happened. Well, emergency services come, all that good stuff. Can you imagine being that EMT showing up to the house? Like, yeah, you really did try to kill yourself. Oh my goodness. So, fast forward 9 years later, I believe, and now he's one of my best counselors, one of my best peer support counselors. This guy has so much life in him, and You want to talk about a mended spirit, and God, him telling a story to people and him counseling people. And we actually have a crisis line, and he answers the crisis line. I mean, this guy's all about it. He's one of my best peer support counselors. Terrible driver, but he's a very good counselor. And I joke a little bit about it, and he jokes about it too. It's dark humor, but that's the thing. It's that spirit, and you think about the military and Air Force, your esprit de corps. The spirit of our corps. But it starts with you, right? It starts with you. Your core has to be solid and intact. And so my challenge again to you is, you guys, just like the general said, if you guys are going through something and you're feeling something, reach out. Or if you know somebody, go and put your hand on them. Go make that human connection. It's the human connection that is going to mend that broken spirit. Thank you.
Jamie, thanks so much. There was a lot of rich content in that discussion, but I love the concept of mending broken spirits. And so hopefully through this process, we'll create some broken spirit menders here in the audience, and that will promulgate throughout the entire center. So in any case, thank you very much for being here, and much appreciate you coming and sharing your story with us. Thanks.